and I've got to be careful here because our job today is to glorify God and not ourselves. So when I'm going to talk about some quite big things in our lives, but don't look at us, look at God. Is that okay? Because we have to glorify God. We're not here, we need to lead people to God, not to ourselves. And the other one I told you was, Lord, I want to be a Christian millionaire because we want to save the kingdom. And I don't even know when it happened, but we became Christian millionaires. God just did the most amazing thing in our business. And I'll tell you what happened. But even today, even in our business accounts, we've got two accounts. We've got a trading account and an interest-bearing account. We've always got hundreds of thousands of dollars in our trading account. God has just transformed, and you'll hear what we did, and we're very involved in missions and giving a lot of our profit away. We found, you cannot outgive God. If you give to God's kingdom, and if you're giving to good soil, and that God leads you to good missions and good things and good projects, God will return. And He says in Proverbs, when you give to the Lord, when you give to the poor, it is like giving to the Lord, and He will return that to you, and in most cases with interest. Isn't that exciting? So, but that's a little bit further on. So what happened? So I keep working. I'm the only one in the company now, and I start marketing and doing stuff, and I start selling a little bit. And over time, in the first year, we made enough money to have a salary and pay off the $40,000 of personal debt. We paid off the computers, the cars, all that type of stuff. And at that stage, I re-employed for a couple of hours a day one of the guys that used to work with me. He started with me when he was 60 years old, and he finished with me when he was 72 years old, and he didn't want to retire. I first forced him to retire. The nicest man you've ever, the most softest, good man, God must have brought this guy to me. Because you know, when a guy comes to these days and applies for a job normally when you're 60, people don't want to give them jobs, isn't that so? But this man, he was so good. His name is Greville Taylor. He was born in Melbourne. Anyway, so he comes and helps me a couple of hours a day, and then eventually became full-time and selling, and our business is starting to grow a little bit. And then after 2 years, we looked and said, this place is too small. So we went and looked for a warehouse, and we found a warehouse that was 250 square meters. And we walked into, wow, this is massive. How will we ever fill this place, and how we'll be here for years. Anyway, we moved in there. It lasted 5 years, and our business had grown again. And at that stage, we started making some money. We started making some money in the business. One day we're coming out of church, and a friend of ours says to me, there's AOG Church in Surfers Paradise. He said, the church can't afford to support the orphanage in Indonesia anymore because of financial this and that. And I said, well, how much is it? And he said, it's $1,000 a month. I said, okay, spoke to Caroline. And we said, we'll do that. So we started support. That was our first mission. And that was 13 years ago. And we just continue, and we didn't actually visit them for the first 7 years, I think. And then we went and visited. We've been twice and just see the orphans and just see what and the kids and what goes on. So that was the first one. And then we started making money. And so we stayed in this business now for 5 years, and then the warehouse became too small. And one day I'm driving around the corner and to the post office. We changed our PO box address to another post office. I see they're building new warehouses on the side here, and I thought, wow, that would be nice. I wonder if we could own our own warehouse one day. And asked the accountant. He said, no, it's a bit early. You know, God put this thing in you. You know, when God put something in you that is just like so urgent, you've just got, like my mom did, you know, get the kids. God does that with it. God put an urgency in. Buy your own building. So I went to the guy and I said, I want to buy. He said, no, you can't. You've got to split the block. I haven't got anybody else. It was too hard. And God told me, just persevere. I just kept phoning and doing. Eventually, I think he got sick and tired of me like I did with my mom. And he said, I found somebody. Anyway, so we built our own warehouse. It was 500 square meters. It was double the size now. And so we built that, and we only had to put down $23,000 deposit, and it took them a year to build it, so we had lots of time to save the deposit. And I saw, God can bring you money from any direction. So in other words, when I have my business Rainbow Shade, I think God's going to bring me money through the business. Yes, He does, but He wanted to show me, I can give you money from any direction. So we built that. 3 or 4 years later, that building went from $450,000 to $1 million. I thought, wow, God, now I know why He put that urgency in my heart, because we own our own building now. Nobody can throw us out. Yeah. And look at all this extra equity that you've given us. So we keep trading, and what God starts doing then, He He starts bringing different ministries across our path. So we would go to different things. It's just like, hey, that guy's the one, that guy's the one, and we just start, as we're making more money, we're just starting to give away more money. So the 10%, the tithe, is not relevant anymore, so we start giving away. So I went to an FGB meeting one day, and here's this black African man called Charles Mully and his wife Esther Mully. And they do a 5-minute talk, that's all they give them. But coming from South Africa and Africa, you're drawn to African people, obviously, and I go and speak to him off. What caught me is what he said. He said, you know, we have a ministry where we transform street children that have been through the most horrific situations, and we transform them into the most amazing Christian children, men and women, that have got the most amazing vision for the future, and they go to university, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. So we invited him to our office, we chatted with him, and how many of you have met Charles Mully? I think quite a couple of you, the family has, and yeah. When you meet Charles, he's just nothing like you think he's going to be. He's just the softest, nicest man. You can just see God in him, isn't that so? And so I decided I've got to go and see what this is like in Kenya. So off I go with my youngest daughter, Christy, and we go and spend time there. It's nothing what it is like today. Then it was just corrugated iron, isn't that so, Wilson? Corrugated iron. It was quite rough in those days. It's a lot nicer now. So off we go. And you know what I saw? I wrote in the vision book, now I've seen the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven in action. Because I was blown away with what they do there. And I think in the midst of us here, we have one example, which is Wilson, and we can see what God's done in his life. Isn't that so? And when you hear his testimony of where he came from, where he is today, and what God's done, that's just, and that, you walk in the fields there with Charles, and you'll call a young boy or young girl and tell us your story, and they'll tell you the most horrific story of what happened in their families, their lives, and what do you want to do? But the biggest thing is that we don't seem to see in the Western world is they've been totally delivered from that trauma in their life. Am I right, Wilson? God has delivered it. It's like erased from them. They can still remember it, but the emotion and all that side and the damage has been just taken away. And what do you want to do one day? I want to be a pilot. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a brain surgeon. I want to be a teacher.